Sneha Milin Nagarkar, Mathura as a Kshetra Evolution.
Namaste. Paridhi has already spoken about Braj and the colonial period. I'll be taking you a little back in time to the early medieval period up to the beginning of the 18th century. And I'll be tracing the evolution of Mathura as a kshetra through 4 texts, which I'll be soon talking about. This is the map of the present district of Mathura. Okay, and I'll be showing this map again also. There is a shloka in the Bhagavatam which reads as Jayati te adhikam janmana vrajah shrayata indira shashvadatrahi. It means that because of the birth of Lord Sri Krishna in Vraja, Indira or Lakshmi came to dwell in Vraja for eternity. And I think this is one of the earliest Mahatmyas of Vraja in a way. Vraja is the region which had many pastoral settlements. That's how we interpret it archaeologically. And Mathura is the political, geographical center of Vraja. And the texts like Ramayana and Harivansha tell us that this city of Mathura, the city as we know it today, was established by Shatrughna, the brother of Rama, by killing Lavanasura. And in the Valmiki Ramayana itself, Shatrughna calls Mathura a city created by the gods. Yam Madhupuri Ramya Madhura Deva Nirmita. So I think this is another example of a very ancient shloka which talks about the Mahatmya of Mathura. In the early historic period, Mathura was the Mathura was the capital of the Shurasena Mahajanapada. Also, when we talk about Mathura as a kshetra, right from the 6th century BCE, we have the worship of mother goddesses. Then in the Mauryan period, we have yakshas, nagas. And as we go ahead in time, like from the Shunga Kushana period onwards, Mathura becomes a multi-religious kshetra having Hindu shrines, Buddhist shrines, and Jaina shrines. So this is a photograph of some of the mother goddesses. Then this is a yaksha from Parkham. Then this is a Naga Devata. This is an icon of Vishnu, and Shaka is worshipping a Shivalinga. And this is Devi, Surya, and Kartikeya. So just, explaining the multi-religious nature of Mathura. This is Buddha and a Tirthankara. So we are talking about Tirthas and Kshetras. Tirtha is basically a place which helps you to cross the Samsara Sagar or the Bhavabdhi. Okay, it's basically a ford, and Kshetra is basically a field where you reap the benefits of your karmas. And in any kshetra, in any tirtha, basically the sacred or any sacred geography, the space element is extremely important. And in a sacred site, we have the revelation and omnipresence of the divine. I'm skipping a few things. Yeah. So for my presentation, I have selected 4 texts. Bhatta Lakshmidhara's Kritya Kalpataru, then Mathura Mahatmya of the Varaha Purana, Mathura Mahatmya of Srila Rupa Goswami, and Bhakti Ratnakara of Narhari Chakravarti. So the dates, approximate dates of these works are given. And basically, I'm going to trace the evolution of 3 sites in the Braja region and then analyze. So this is the picture of a 18th or 19th century manuscript of Rupa Goswami's Mathura Mahatmya. Then I have analyzed basically 3 sites. Tirthas on the Yamuna from Mathura proper, Vrindavana and Radha Kunda through the lens of these 4 texts. So in the Kritya Kalpataru, the Asi Kunda is the main Kunda, and today, which is Vishranti Tirtha, which is like the main Tirtha on the Yamuna in Mathura, is nowhere mentioned. Also, none of the tirthas which have been mentioned in later texts are included. A lot of minor kshetras have been included, like Virasthalam, Kanakam, Prakirtanam, etc. Then in the Varaha Purana Mathura Mahatmya, Yamuna is praised as the sister of Vaivasvata Manu. Also, the most important tirtha now becomes Vishranti or Vishrama Ghata and not Asikunda, and a number of other tirthas are also spoken about. Here I would like to specially mention Prayaga and the Dashashwamedha Tirtha, and yesterday Madhavi ma'am and Dr. Mrunalini Nevalkar spoke about the replication of tirthas. So here also we have a kind of a replication of tirthas, that Prayag being Prayag of modern times and Varanasi, the Dashashwamedh Ghat from Varanasi have been replicated in Mathura, and Professor Rana P.B. Singh also speaks about this in detail. And the merit of bathing at all these tirthas is attaining Vishnu Loka. This is the Vishranti Tirtha or Vishrama Ghat at Mathura. Then in the Rupa Goswami's Mathura Mahatmya, all these 24 tirthas are there. But what is important here is that the greatness of the river Yamuna has been spoken, and that too in the context of Lord Krishna. Okay, so Yamuna, if you pray to Yamuna, if you venerate her, you get the eternal association of Lord Krishna. You can actually visualize Lord Krishna playing there with his gopas and gopis. And Mathura has actually been compared to Parabrahma, the Upanishadic ideal of Parabrahma, and she gives you association with Lord Krishna. Then in the Bhakti Ratnakar also we have the description of these 24 tirthas, but what is different is that at every place the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been described. Like he says that, the Narahari Chakravarti says that when the Lord went to Vishranti Tirtha, that is Lord Chaitanya went to Vishranti Tirtha, he performed Nama Sankirtana there, and lots and lots of devotees came to see him. But when I actually referred to the original Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishnadas Kaviraj, there is no such description. He only mentions that the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Vishranti Tirtha, that's about it. Then we come to Vrindavana. In the Kritya Kalpataru, Vrindavana is described as the Lord's greatest kshetra, Paramakshetram. And here there is a description of the Lord playing with the Gopalakas. Also a Kunda has been mentioned, which is not named. Arkasthalam, which is identified with the Dvadasha Aditya mound in Vrindavan, has been mentioned. Then there is a particular line which says that Archaishyati Govindam. Now Govinda actually is the tutelary deity of Vrindavan, where today stands the great Govinda Deva temple on the Yoga Peeth of Vrindavan. And perhaps because of the verb Archaishyati, I have come to the conclusion that there must have been an actual image of Govinda, rather than he just referring to Krishna as Govinda. Because he also refers to Krishna as Achyuta, Janardana and Krishna, but there are no shrines, or at least no well-known shrines with these names of Krishna in the Vraja region. Then in the Varaha Purana Mathura Mahatmya, you have a list of all the 12 vanas. Like as we know, Braja region consists of 12 main vanas and 12 subordinate vanas. And this particular site of Vrindavana has been described as Vrindaya Parirakshitam Mama Chaiva Priyam Bhume Sarva Pataka Nashanam. That, O Devi, O Bhumi, this kshetra of Vrindavana, which is protected by Vrinda, which is the personification or deification of the basil plant, she is the protector goddess of this particular kshetra. Then a lot of other things are also mentioned. I'm skipping these because of lack of time. This is the Dvadasha Aditya Mount, which at least dates back to the Mauryan period. There was a Mauryan period settlement there, and right on top is the Madana Mohana temple constructed by Srila Sanatana Goswami in the 16th century CE. Then we come to Rupa Goswami's Mathura Mahatmya. Rupa Goswami obviously glorifies Vrindavan because that is the center of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Also, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they were known as the Goswamis of Vrindavan. They were the disciples of Lord Chaitanya. And he says that here Hari resides, but now Vrinda Devi is like a servant of Hari. So she is a protector goddess, but at the same time, she is now she's associated with Krishna, and she's now the dasi, or she does the seva of Lord Govinda, and this is the eternal abode of Lord Govinda. And what is very important is that both the Varaha Purana Mathura Mahatmya and the Kritya Kalpataru do not speak about any temple as such. They only refer to deities. But here, Rupa Goswami takes a paragraph, a verse from the Skanda Purana, where he mentions a huge temple of Govinda. And in my opinion, it is, he may have modified that statement to attract more patronage and more visitors to the Govinda Deva temple that he had constructed. This is not the original temple constructed by Rupa Goswami. This has been constructed in the 1590s by Man Singh Kachwaha of Amer. Then in the Bhakti Ratnakara, there are parallels between the Leelas of Lord Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout in Vrindavan. And Vrindavan and Navadvipa, the place where Lord Chaitanya was born, are considered to be one and the same. And what Chakravarti does is that apart from mentioning Govinda Deva, he also mentions the two temples of Madana Gopala, which is identified with Madana Mohana and Gopinatha. Okay, fine, I'll finish. So these two temples are Gaudiya temples, and they are mentioned in the opening paragraphs of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Also, there are references to Kaliya Tirtha. Just one thing I would like to say is that in the Bhakti Ratnakara, you get references to actual settlements, whereas in the previous three texts, no actual human habitation site or settlement as such has been mentioned. Okay, this is the Madana Mohana temple, the Radha Gopinatha temple. I am skipping Radha Kunda and I'll directly come to my conclusions. First is that Mathura starts off as a religious center and as a political capital, and develops into a religious center by the Kushana period, that is by the 1st, 2nd centuries of the Common Era. Also, Mathura and Vrindavana are real geographical places. Many foreign authors, I don't want to name them, but they call this, especially Vrindavana, as a mythical site. But archaeological discovery, literary evidences from our Indic traditions clearly say that they are not they are not imaginary places. Okay, we might say the literature is imagination, fine. I don't agree with it, but what about the archaeological evidences? We get archaeological evidences in Vrindavan proper of Bhagavatism from the 3rd century BCE onwards. Then when you come to the concept of the Mathura Mandala, see, Mandala is generally the circular space, and none of the, around a particular site, and none of the texts actually speak about Mathura Mandala from a philosophical or cosmological point of view. In my opinion, basically Mathura Mandala is the sacred space where Lord Krishna specially manifests himself, and this term Mandala is used to distinguish the sacred space associated with Lord Krishna from the rest of the profane landscape. Also, since we talk about Mathura, Govardhana, Vrindavan too, it is a comprehensive term, that the sacredness is not just limited to the city of Mathura, but to its satellite settlements of Vrindavana, Govardhana, Mahavana, and so on. Also, from archaeological point of view, this Mathura Mandala is like the site catchment of the city of Mathura. Like, that is the main urban center, and Gokula, Vrindavan, they are all the subsidiary or satellite settlements around Mathura. Then we have the element of the Mathura Mandala Parikrama, which is related to the actual mandala, the concept of mandala as such. Then we have the element of bhakti, which intensifies throughout the texts. Also, as Paridhiji just mentioned, there is a constant comparison with Varanasi. And you see a sectarian development. How much time do I have? Do I have 2 minutes? Yeah, I'll just read out the the last points of my conclusion. The chronological sequence of the texts indicates the systematic development of the Krishnite cult. In the Kritya Kalpataru, which was compiled around the 12th century, Lord Krishna is not really the central figure as such. Vishnu is the central figure, but gradually, as we advance in time, Krishna becomes the main focus, and by the time you come to the Bhakti Ratnakara, Krishna and Radha become the focal point. Like in the Mathura Mahatmya of the Varaha Puran, Radha is only mentioned once. Then to some more extent in Rupa Goswami's, and it goes on. And the last point that I would like to make is that the whole sacred scape, faithscape of Mathura is greatly entrenched in its ecology. So the space element, the geographic element comes, and this whole faithscape is superimposed on the geography, and together it becomes a sacred landscape, a cultural landscape, and ultimately, whether it is the mountain of Govardhana, whether it is the river Yamuna, or whether it is the tiniest particle of dust, the Braja Rajakarna, everything is the Swarupa of Lord Shri Krishna. I would just like to read 2 shlokas and finish. Mathurayaha param kshetram trailokyena vidyate tasyam vasamyaham devi mathurayam cha sarvada. Just like we spoke about Varanasi being avimukta kshetra, the permanent residence of Lord Shiva, in the same way Mathura Mandala is the permanent residence of Lord Krishna. And Sarvesham Devi Tirthanam cha Param Mahat Krishnena Kriditam Tatra Tad Shuddham hi Pade Pade. Every step, at every sacred site, every site in Mathura is sacred because it has been touched by the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. So so all the 4 texts basically talk about a Vaishnava sacred geography, which gradually becomes a more Krishnite sacred geography. Thank you so much.
So this was very interesting, thank you. My question is, have you looked at these texts from the point of view of the current practices and rituals that happen in the Mathura Kshetra, and do they use these texts in some form? Or is there an evolution in what is being used in these practices also?
Well, sir, as far as, it's a very good question. Mainly, if you see Rupa Goswami's Mathura Mahatmya and Bhakti Ratnakara are used by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Like, I was more focusing more on Gaudiya Vaishnavism, but they are, of course, many of the practices which are now followed in Mathura are not the original. Like, they are not from the ancient period or even from the early medieval period. And as you know, Mathura was revived by people who didn't belong to Mathura. Whether it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whether it is the Shad Goswamis, or whether it is Vallabhacharya. They were all people from outside Mathura who got their own traditions to some extent, and now and of course there are a lot of ritual traditions, I am not which are indigenous to Vraja, but they have developed from the 16th or the 17th century onwards. Like, even if you take the example of the Archa Beras which are there in the present temples, okay, even dating back, say, to the 16th century, are in no way similar to the great tradition of sculpture that Mathura once boasted of. I mean, the material is different, the style is also totally different. And in these texts, if you see, whether it is in any of these 4 texts, they make no mention of Buddhism or Jainism. It is Vaishnavism, and we see an amalgamation of Shaktism, Shaivism, and the Surya cult also. Like, there is a description in the Bhakti Ratnakara that Lord Surya danced in ecstasy when he saw Lord Sri Krishna. But in the Varaha Purana, it is said that Lord Sri Krishna prayed to Surya for a son. And there is the story of the Samba thing, of Samba pray. That story is, it is ascribed to every Surya Kshetra, even to Konark. But this, in the Varaha Purana Mathura Mahatmya, Samba prayed in Mathura. And Samba has a connection to Mathura because Mathura has had the cult of the Pancha Vrishni Viras. And so Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Samba, and Aniruddha, with the 5 scions of the Vrishni Kula. So which developed into the Pancharatra, the Vyuha doctrine. Any other question? Yeah, sure.
So today when we go to Mathura, it is like the Radha is the
Yes.
goddess of
Yes,
Mathura
yes,
region.
Yes.
But so where exactly in this whole textual tradition we hear of Radha first? Because there's a lot of
So,
controversy around here.
Yeah, sir, okay. In the Kritya Kalpataru, there is just a reference to Radha Kunda. And Vishnu or Varaha says that this is my Parama Kshetra. That's it. In the Mathura Mahatmya of the Varaha Purana, we have the story of Arishta, the bull Arishta, which was killed by Krishna, and then to atone for killing a bull, he digs a pond, and then Radha, and he bathes there, and Radha also creates a pond. That is Radha Kunda. That's it. But in Rupa Goswami's, I was actually going to say that, but Mathura Mahatmya, Radha Kunda gets a lot of importance. There are descriptions of the sports of Radha and Krishna. And in the Bhakti Ratnakara, if you see, this whole thing about Radha Krishna gets a very amorous kind of element, where in the waters of Radha Kunda, Radha and Krishna used to enjoy amorous sports. So, and actually the subject of Radha is very controversial. If I start talking about it, I will be depriving the other speaker. We can have a discussion. I can speak to you, sir. So in this context, and we actually see through the evolution of the sacred landscape of Radha Kunda, you actually see the importance of Radha, which was increasing. Every text is right from Kritya Kalpataru, which makes no reference of Radha, to Bhakti Ratnakara, where Radha becomes everything. Like even the place where Radha cooks, where her mother-in-law, where her father-in-law, everything is given. Her details about her kitchen are given. Where was her kitchen? So all these things we can see the whole evolution. And I'm only speaking from the perspective of these 4 texts. There are many more texts. Like you have the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, you have the Padma Purana, which speak like, I mean, Radha is called Vrindavaneshwari in the Padma Purana, the queen of Vrindavana. And according to the Shakta tradition in Vrindavana, the Shakti, the Devi is Radha, whereas Mathura it is Devaki, and Dwarka it is Rukmini. Yeah. Any other questions? You can.
I have one question. Do any of these texts mention Mathura as one of the Saptapuris or Mokshdayini?
No, ma'am.
They don't mention.
They don't. They make no reference.
No reference. Okay.
And they are constantly comparing Mathura with Varanasi.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.